before Fremantle.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm very glad to speak to this motion. I thank the member for Macquarie, the government's special envoy for the arts, for bringing it forward. Can I say at the outset that without question, live music is one of the best things. It's one of the best things. We could argue about whether storytelling or music was likely to have been humankind's first collective cultural experience. For all we know, it was quite possibly both at the same time. Through live music, we join into something bigger than ourselves. We tell and hear stories. We experience the amplification of joy and pain. We remember and we celebrate. Sometimes we might shake our fists and dance for change. Sometimes we mourn. But without question, making and hearing and dancing to music together is one of the great heartthrobs that animate our experience of creativity and of community. And because it represents such a magical, primal, essential kind of human experience, we should expect it to be a ubiquitous and frequent part of our lives. And on that basis, it absolutely has to be a welcoming, safe, inclusive experience for all involved, starting with musicians and other workers in the industry, but for everyone who goes along to support their work and to revel in their noise. Unfortunately, we know that isn't always the case. The Raising Our Voices report has shown that 55% of the nearly 1,300 survey participants had experienced some form of workplace sexual harassment, and 72% of women had suffered that kind of unacceptable treatment. In addition, 76% of survey participants reported having experienced bullying at some point in their musical career. This independent report has shone a light on the prevalence of conduct in the music industry that has to stop. Deputy Speaker, live music can be wild. Live music can push buttons and push boundaries. It's okay if the noise is a little bit dangerous. It's great sometimes if the lyrics and the performance are on the edge or over the top. But it is 100% not okay when a live music environment is an environment in which violence occurs, or sexual assault or harassment, or anything that is fundamentally exploitative and non-consensual. Those behaviours are not okay anywhere, and we know in Australia that we have work to do to eliminate that kind of conduct in almost every area of life, but it has been, unfortunately, common and widespread in the music industry, and that needs to stop. As Jaguar Jones has noted, the Raising Our Voices report took a lot of sacrifice and energy from survivors, and it must be the beginning of serious remedial work. Jones has said, and I quote, "We now require commitment to change and action. I hope that with the report, the industry leaders will commit to and implement the recommendations to begin the process of creating safe arts workplaces." Deputy Speaker, I'm lucky to have grown up surrounded by music. Both my parents are musical. My brother is a musician. My dad chaired the board of a not-for-profit live music venue, the Flyby Nightclub in Fremantle, and Freo has long featured a range of distinctive and evolving music venues. But Freo has had its share of unacceptable behaviour and poor venue management of such behaviour, including in the last couple of years. Sadly, it's the case for women, whether they're musicians or fans of musicians, it's the case that a concert crowd can be an environment in which they can almost be guaranteed to experience unwanted and inappropriate attention. That needs to change, and it needs to change through the behaviour of men. Men need to change. There needs to be a cultural and behavioural shift with no tolerance of the crap that has been endemic in some of these situations. All of us can be part of that change by having a good hard look at ourselves, by not looking the other way when it comes to the behaviour of people we know, and by showing a bit of courage as a bystander to call out or report bad behaviour when it happens around us. Deputy Speaker, the prospect of live music performed or enjoyed should never be tainted by the anticipation of harassment or bullying. There is much to be done to ensure that Australian songwriters and performers are properly valued and supported in their vital work, starting with safe workplaces. I call on people around Australia, in my community and in communities all around the country, as summer begins, to reflect on the fact that musicians were among those worst affected by the COVID pandemic, and that in some jurisdictions the live music scene has only recovered to 50% of its pre-COVID state. Let's do something about that. We can do something about that by getting out, supporting the Australian live music scene as summer arrives, which I think is happening in Fremantle today, but I'm not so sure about the East Coast. A critical part of that work, Deputy Speaker, within the industry, within venues, within some of the bands, and certainly within the crowds, is to make sure that our ability to be energised by the primal goodness of live music is not limited or diluted or ruined by stupid, ugly, unacceptable behaviour.